Redditors friends with an identical twin. What's your most awkward encounter with a wrong twin? Went to school with one twin, and went to church with the other. Thought they were the same person for over a year. Don't feel bad. I worked in a sandwich shop and served two completely unrelated customers for over a year. Thought they were the same person until they both came in at the same time. What a trip. I made friends with twin brothers at the end of first grade. But we only played together during recess for a few weeks before summer came and I went to stay with my dad. Second grade starts and I'm so excited to see them this year. I run over and say hi and we play tag or something for a while. The bell rings and I'm walking to class and I see my friends in the hall. I had been playing with some random kids that looked a bit like my friends. But just because they were twin boys I had thought they were my original friends. Twins, they all look alike. My mechanic has an identical twin and I live in a small village. My mechanic is a great guy. I most often hang around and talk with him when I have my car there. There are times when I see him at the store so we'll shoot the shit there as well. Though I have never talked to his twin. But he seems super friendly cause he always greet me like we know each other. I wouldn't mind knowing him too. But you know, just cause I talk with his brother don't make us friends per definition. Right, I discussed this with my wife just recently. How his brother is almost clingy and I'm not sure what to do. Turns out, my mechanic has no twin at all. He's an only child. There's another guy in our town who has a twin and I just always thought that guy was my mechanic. And my mechanic in civil clothes were his twin. What does he really think of me? I must come off as this weird fucking guy who is super friendly at times and a real douchebag at other times. That is hilarious. I had just started a new school. There were these twin sisters in the grade above mine. One of them had bumped into me the previous day and said some horrible shit. I'd been too bewildered to say anything back, was prepared when I saw her the next day. I told her off, got a little too personal about her looks too for some reason. She then tells me she's got an abrasive twin who does stuff like that to her too. Took me a while to believe it and then I felt bad for having insulted her looks. Apologized. We ended the conversation on a mutually satisfactory note based upon our shared dislike of her twin. When I was 18, a lady I'd never met came running at me in the street yelling, "Oh my God. Where's your mom? You shouldn't be out here alone." Quote, "My identical twin is severely autistic." This woman was, I believe, one of her assistants at college. UK here. She did not know that my sister had an identical twin LMAO. That was an interesting, albeit short, conversation. I'm fine, thank you. If it's my sister you mean. She's at home. Asterisk Q disturbed look from the lady asterisk. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Q, not Q. Oh man. When I was in like 4th grade, there was a set of twin boys that were both in my class. I think schools usually don't allow that, so not sure why they were in the same class. I had a little kid crush on one of them, and was super awkward about it all the time. And usually to the wrong twin. I'd be talking to him about something and he'd be like, "IDK. You know I'm not." Other twin's name. Right. Quote. And I'd try to play it off like I hadn't just mixed them up and tried to awkwardly little kid flirt with the wrong kid. This happened at least 3 or 4 times that I remember. Every time I think about this I cringe LMFAO. Well, what if he was the right twin and just said he was not to avoid you? Oh God, I never even thought of that. RIP 9-year-old me. Oof. In elementary school, there was a set of twin boys in my class and I was only friends with one of them this year. They both had a form of Tourette's where they'd repeat back everything someone else said to them, mumbling, or they just mouth it. If it was specifically about them, they'd say, "I" instead of "you" or their name. Let's call them Ed and Eddie. I was friends with Ed and was mad at Eddie for stealing Ed's calculator. After lunch, I went up to who I thought was Ed and was like, "Did shitty Eddie give you your calculator back? Do you want me to tell on him? He repeated. Did shitty mean give me your calculator back? Do you want me to tell on me? Then I saw it across the yard. Slap the wrong twin's ass. Man, that was awkward. Yeah, Arnold isn't as cool with it as Danny is. Not me, but a friend of mine dated a twin. She told me about a time when she saw him walking somewhere and wanted to surprise him by sneaking up behind and hugging Hi Monsieur, so she snuck up, wrapped her arms around him, and was going to kiss him on the cheek when she heard him talking and realized it wasn't him. It was his twin brother. They laughed it off, but she told me it still haunts her. I would kill myself if I did that. I went to a boarding school where we had to learn everyone's names in our year. About 100 of us. And then there's these fucking identical twins. We'd get tested on memorizing everybody's names. And then of course we'd fuck up the identical twins and we'd have to start all over again. Anyway, one guy asked if we could start doing the test in the shower, because the one twin was super hung and the other had something close to a micro penis. Asterisk, we had these big chamber showers, so everyone knew who was well endowed. So one twin took it all instead of sharing. Damn flushed. Played beer league hockey with a pair of twins. After a game I was sitting next to twin 1 when twin 2 got up to leave. Good game. See everyone next week, he says as he walks out the door. I nudge twin 1 next to me and ask, was that you or your brother that just left? He processes the question and answers earnestly, oh, that was my brother. Yeah, that's what it's like to be a twin. Man, I wish I'd have known this one when I hung out with twins in school. That's fucking hilarious. Nothing much. Really. Even identical twins aren't actually identical. You learn to tell them apart fairly quickly once you get to know them, monsieur. I have a best friend who's an identical twin and sometimes I can tell the difference. But it just always throws me off. I knew identical twins in high school. Dated one. I could always tell them apart. Even on the phone I'd know who answered. It's hard to explain, but when you like one and not the other you sort of pick out minor things. As a twin, if you don't know the other one there's no basis for comparison. So, yes, people do get us confused. Yay. I went to school with 2 sororal twins who happened to look almost exactly alike. And I was the only person who could tell them apart. Well, we went to an all-white school and were like the only 3 that weren't. Another brown kid was new to the school once and people started confusing me for them. Looked nothing alike. Not even the same race. So I keep mixing them up. It's awful. I feel so bad. Parent of the year right here. My brother and I are the twins in this scenario. This is about my friend Bryce and how I realized Bryce didn't know I had a twin, haha. My bro and I were going to a friend's party and I was running late. So he beats me there by like 20 minutes and says hi to my girlfriend at the time. And then goes and sits on the couch across the room. Monsieur Bryce is hanging out in the corner. He says hi to my bro and everyone continues watching TV. I think it was a watch party for Game of Thrones if I remember correctly. I arrive and come in and say hello. Sit next to my GF and watch the show. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to me, Bryce's head is exploding behind us. After a few minutes, another friend asks my bro to hand them a drink and Bryce yells out something like, oh my god, they're twins. I thought I was going insane over here. Quote. He then explains that from his vantage point, he saw me come in and cordially say hello to my GF, then walk across the room and ignore her. Then sees a guy who looks exactly like me come in and sit next to her. And meanwhile nobody else in the room notices that anything is awry. I can see how he felt like he was being punked, haha. I already posted one story about my brother and I in this thread and I remembered another one, haha. We're identical twins and he attended a church that I did not. And one day several years ago I was walking around town with my now ex-wife after a date. I wasn't aware that my bro's friend Brad from church was also downtown and had spied what he thought was my brother walking around town smooching with a lady who was not his wife, lol. Apparently, me being completely unaware of the time, Brad followed my lady and I a half block behind, trying to work up the courage to come up and confront me, bro. He did not take kindly to my brother cheating on his lady, and the next day went to the pastor or a deacon and told them what he saw and how he couldn't stop thinking about it and how he owed it to my brother's wife to say something. The pastor just said, "You know he has a twin brother, right?" Quote, "I saw the girl I liked and chatted with in public and her twin was with her. I didn't know how to greet them and especially how to greet her because I couldn't take them apart. Lol. Greater than I couldn't take them apart, lol. Were they conjoined too? I used to know a pair of twins at school. I didn't realize they were two different people for 4 years. I did the same, but for 2 years. It was only when someone pointed to one on one side of the courtyard and the other at the other end that I realized that it wasn't one guy just switching clothes for PE every day. To be fair, I only had classes with one of them and never had a chance to run into the other until junior year. So I didn't know the other existed and therefore slipped up a lot calling him by his brother's name. When we finally got a class together, both of them are rude and abrasive anyway, so I don't feel too bad about it. If they both have terrible personalities, who's going to pick them apart easily? I'm dating a guy who lives with his identical twin brother. No serious fuck-ups yet, but sometimes I'll glimpse who I believe to be my boyfriend out of the corner of my eye and say, "Hi." Pet name. Cringing ensues. I don't have one because I could always tell them apart. A was the good twin and B was the evil twin. I was friends with A's girlfriend. She could not tell them apart. A was a cool guy, not unlike his twin, just nicer somehow. Most people did not like B. I'm not sure if he ever had a girlfriend that wasn't made up, but A had no trouble with the ladies. Sometimes B would pretend to be A if he saw A's girlfriend when A wasn't around, like in the hallway between classes. So he'd cop a quick feel or something mildly dirty because it was the only way he could get permission from a girl. Gross. That's actually some kinda rape assault. Take out the kinda. A very old story. Happened in 4th grade. Let the twins be S and B. Being only 9 or 10. They looked exactly the same. They were the new kids at school and them not being in my class. Wasn't acquainted with a monsieur. My friend group invited them along during recess. Made quick introductions and got to know which sections they were in. S and G, B and D. We played hide and seek. I was the seeker. They went to hide. I did my counting and went looking for the monsieur. Well, I found one of them, and being excited, he pushed me down onto the pavement and ran, leading to me getting quite a few cuts. I was hot-headed kid, so after having been to the clinic, I went to vent out my aggression. I was completely convinced it was S, so went to G, gave him a solid few. Well, it turns out I got the wrong guy. I was friends with identical twins in 4th grade. Halfway through the year, one of them got their hair cut somewhat shorter. I was happy because I could now tell them apart. However, as time passed I realized I didn't know which one had gotten the haircut and I was too embarrassed to ask. Near the end of the year they had their birthday party. At some point I was talking to one of the twins, so I decided to give her her present, saying, "Happy birthday, Naomi." Quote, it was not Naomi, and both the twins were wearing matching shirts with their name on it. I walked into my colleague's office one day, and I can't explain it, but I just knew the person sitting in that room wasn't my colleague. I silently backed out of the room without saying anything, convinced I'd just seen a doppelganger. White as a sheet, I found a different colleague and tried to explain that we were all cosmically fucked. It was then that I learned that my colleague is an identical twin. It was her sister in the office, waiting to catch a ride home. As a direct result of this incident, We discovered that 3 out of the 10 people in that office have identical twins. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.